they're emotionally poor. People are not prepared early enough to transit. These people resort to crime so that they can make their ends meet. Because as you know, in our communities, most of the time, once you click that adulthood, 18 years and above, most families will expect you to go back and help your own siblings, help your families. The community will also expect you to join in other social activities, for instance, harambes. They also expect you to dress well. They expect you to get a job. They expect you to marry. So when these pressures become too much, therefore, the youth tends to get frustrated. Some do not have the finance maybe to begin their own businesses, maybe to take themselves to further their education. Some come from poor background where we have economic challenges. So most of these youth therefore have all these challenges that at the end of the day, they get frustrated. And due to this frustration, they therefore turn into other dubious means to earn a living. And because of this, therefore, the youth are given an umbrella kind of character that they are criminals, but it's actually what the environment offers them. Family environment, community environment, even the job market. So the pressures of youth, the pressures from the environment lead these particular individuals to turn into other aspects that can give them a way of living, that can give them something like a social acceptance, that can make them survive, that can make them support their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you talk of pressures from the environment. And with that, I want us to look at the statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, where the youth population between the ages of 18 to 34, we are at 13.7 million. The unemployment rate stands at 39%. So this is to mean that Kenya is a youthful country. Therefore, we are looking at 61% of the total population being between the age of 0 to age of 24, having 9.5 million youth population. So the question therefore is it the youth birth phenomenon in most African nations had been seen to lead to the unsettling and perhaps the devastating outcomes we've experienced? Just like you said, it is from now the external pressures or the pressures of the environment, the pressures that we are going through, mostly unemployment. We have a huge number of youths who are unskilled. So therefore, to me, in as much as yes, we are looking at a potential labor force that is very unskilled. So could it be therefore that we lack a proper way of handling this issue, the youth issue, or are we surprised by the youth bulge that we are experiencing mostly in African countries?
First of all, I'd want to say the youth bulge that we have is a positive aspect in governance. It simply means that the government has managed to control child mortality rates. It also means that we have health care for mothers who are at childbearing age. It also means that we have a fertile population. So positively, that is a sign of development. Now the problem comes in when the youth are more than the elderly people, so that we have a high levels of dependence. So we have the youth that we need to provide health care, we need to provide housing, we need to provide education for them because they are still dependent on the adult population. So at one level, it is positive because the government has actually managed to reduce the poverty rate. But as you can say, it is actually a time bomb. It is a demographic bomb that is just waiting to explode, especially here in Kenya. Because this youth bulge theory has been validated by real life experiences, not only within Africa, even in other countries. So it comes with problems, for example, high dependency ratios. When we have children and young adults being greater than the adult population. So these problems, if they are not enhanced, what we need to convert the youth bulge into a demographic dividend. But in this case, in Africa, I don't think we are ready for that. I'll give an example of a country that has already tapped the youth bulge to their own advantage. China, for example, tapped the youth population, which is greater than the adult population, using a national plan. In this case, they provided enabling environment to support small businesses, to support foreign investment through technology, and it ended up developing multinational corporations, international businesses, especially through the use of technology. So it has led to foreign investment, which has achieved positive result, and it has even added the GDP of their own nation, because they came up with a national plan, tapped these the youth, and used them in a way that they become productive. For example, now when we go to the youth bulge being a time bomb, being a demographic tragedy that is about to happen, when we look at what is happening in the Middle East and in North Africa, youth bulge has led to unrest due to unemployment, number one, police brutality, number two, corruption, among others. And because of this, it has led to the development of radical groups, permanent unemployment, and even partial unemployment. So because of that, I therefore say it is a demographic bomb, because when we have a high number of youthful population, highly dependent on a smaller number of adult population, definitely there will come some negative effects, because we will not be able to meet the demands. We will not be able to meet the cost of making sure that these youth get what they are required to get. For instance, I had mentioned earlier housing, health, education, because these are people who are not dependent, especially those under the age of 18, and sometimes those who are still in colleges and universities. So research and real life experiences has therefore proved that the youth bulge leads to several negative issues. And if we have not yet experienced now, we are going to experience it in the future. For instance, it has led to armed conflict, regardless of the level. Armed conflict can take place between two groups, what we call intergroup, in between a group, what we call intragroup, or within a country or between two countries. And we have seen this. So, for example, the vigilante groups that arose in Kenya, it's because we have these youth. They are idle, they are jobless, some are not learned, they don't have any other economic support for them to stand on their own. So this youth bulge, by research, by real life experiences, has led to armed conflict, regardless of their level. It can begin from the family level, community level, all the way up. It has also caused revolution, and it has a tendency of causing revolutions. For instance, I can mention the marching students due to the shooting cases in Parkland, Florida, the school shooting cases. We had a number of youth who were trying to make a revolution in the United States so that they can be able to curb or to come up or to amend the laws that has to do with the use of guns. We also had the Arab Spring protest, the one that began in Tunisia, it spread to Egypt, Libya, and it even saw the resignation of the Egyptian president. We also have the likes of the Vietnam Wars, among others. So we have these revolutions, but when you look keenly to its source, it comes from a youth bulge. When we have a large number of youthful population, they are jobless, they are unemployed, some of them are not learned, so they become frustrated, and therefore they demand for changes in the government. Most of these changes are triggered by issues like, for example, corruption. By issues like police brutality, like what is currently happening in the United States, where people are talking about Black Lives Matter. So some small issues within that nation or within that particular environment trigger youth who are already frustrated economically, socially, because of their high number within society and minimal job vacancies, minimal resources, poverty, among other social evils. It is also evident that youth bulge has led to mass migration or immigration, which involves both legal movement within a country and illegal movement. So because of this, therefore, we have people who move from their own countries to other countries in search of jobs, in search of better lives. Then we have the illegal immigration that happens, where we have people who even end up risking their lives across oceans, trying to move to the developed countries. This usually happens, especially in Africa, those countries along the coast. We have people who risk their lives to move using motorboats that are not supposed to cross the ocean or the seas to other regions trying to find a good life. We also have migration where people, the youth, move from the rural areas to urban areas in search of jobs. At the end of the day, they end up forming what we call slums in the urban areas. These people are jobless. They depend on manual jobs, which pay wages way down below what their achievement is or the level that they're supposed to be paid. So you find someone who's a graduate and does manual jobs, lives in a slum, earns as little as 2,000 shillings, for example, in a month. So it creates another problem in the urban area where we have too many people, less jobs, wages that are very meager. And this also creates another problem. It creates a situation where we can have youth forming groups, engaging in crime, and at the end of the day, they might even end up being politically affiliated. And this also becomes another time bomb that it might cause armed conflict, it might cause war or anything else. True. I can also say that because of the upside of crime, it is usually because the youth are trying to survive. The youth are trying to become independent. And so they do not have any other way. We do not have a government program that is there to cushion a jobless youth, 18 years and above. It is you, yourself, you try and find a way to survive. Then you come from a background where your family does not own land. You don't even have a home. You're living in a rental house. You come from a family of 10 or 8. Your parents are jobless. So it's like a cycle. So for people to break out of that circle of poverty, they need to do something. And that's why crime comes in. I can also say that from research, from experiences, youth bulge in countries also is correlated. It's highly correlated with terrorism. For example, the current recruitment of Kenyan youth by Al-Shabaab, radicalism, and the rise of vigilante groups. We have so many youth, when they are offered a bigger pay as compared from what they earn, they would rather join Al-Shabaab to provide for their brothers, provide for their parents, provide for their spouses, as long as they get to earn. So it is highly correlated with terrorism. It also correlates with unemployment because youth bulge, educated people, no jobs. So in this case, therefore, the job market is flooded. We also have youth with limited experiences. They would want to work, but they do not have enough experiences. We also have high school dropout rates. Our country, Kenya, has tried to come up with a subsidized way of making sure that students go through to high school, but not most of them will transit from high school to college. Although we have policies in place, I think we need a good way of making sure that these people transit. If you drop out of high school, you need to do something. But now, cultural thinking, a way of thinking also stops people from taking certain courses. And here we come also to the problem of youth bulge. People come from backgrounds where maybe, for example, only certain jobs are considered important in society. You either become a teacher, a pilot, an engineer, or so forth. But when you come to like agricultural activities, artisans, they do not like those jobs, and they are viewed as the least in the if they are ranked. So people, therefore, because of they dropped out of high school, they do not want to take jobs that their communities or families see as bad jobs. they end up forming these groups and resort to criminal activities. I can also add that, yeah.
Maybe as we continue, maybe just to interrupt and bring in this question, so that you explain them together. You say that the youth bulge is a positive aspect of development. So, and
Yes.
I was reading a research on countering violent extremism and war. So there was a suggestion that in most African countries, or even they referred to a document that was prepared by UN on the involvement of youth in violence. So, and the research was suggesting that in most governments have marginalized the youth, especially on issues of governance, participation, youth participation on aspect of security. Mostly those forming the committees of discussing matter security are always elderly people. So there is always that it's a deliberate intention to neglect the youth, or maybe to marginalize the youth on matters of security. But if you want to maybe have this huge number of youth being involved in national development, then I guess there's need for us to have them sit in critical decision-making tables and be able to also offer alternatives, because I believe the youth have the solutions to whatever we are facing as a country, be it in matters security, be it in matters education, in whatever aspect of governance. But you realize that marginalization has always been a key issue, especially affecting many youths. Could it be a reason for them to behave the way they behave? Or is it that they are acting as is it a retaliatory way of the youth to communicate to the government that, hey, we are also members of this society and we are equally responsible for the national development?
Okay, when it comes to marginalization, my argument is that it is two-way. First of all, I will accept that the youth are marginalized. From what perspective? For example, we have minority communities. When we are talking about county governments, for example, in Kenya, where they were tribally demarcated. So the youth from minority communities in terms of job placement are marginalized, number one. So marginalization also in terms of age. Some positions, even in the local community, are left to seniors. So this also has to do with cultural practices. Remember, we come from a diverse community. In some communities, a person at a certain age who has not gone through maybe a particular rights is not supposed to stand before elders and even advise them. Some communities do not even allow women to stand facing elders in a public forum. So as much as we accept that we are diverse, we also have cultures and we need to respect. We also need to take away some cultural aspects that bar the youth from participating in their own governance. So I accept there are some issues that lead to a marginalization of the youth, one of it being a minority community in a particular region. The second aspect is corruption in the system. You have these youth who come from a poor background and they cannot afford that fee that they'd want to use or pay to secure a particular vacancy. So here also the issue of poverty, where people lack capital, they lack information and lack relevant skills comes in. So you get marginalized because you don't have the information, you don't have the relevant skills. For example, when we are talking of them participating in governance, how many people in Kenya are aware, for example, of the budgeting process in Kenya, what is required? So you cannot even say that we want all the youth to participate while we have ignorant masses of youth. So what is important is that while they go through the academic system, this issue of public governance is given to them, they are taught about it, so that when we tell them to participate in their own governance, they know exactly what they are doing. And I've been from experiences while participating in governance issue. When you go to this forum, you realize that 99% are adults. So you ask yourself, where are these youth? Yet they are the people who are in the front line, insisting that we left out in governance. So first of all, I would want to say that the youth are in a position whereby I would say instigated non-participation in governance, leading to their own marginalization. They are not interested, but they would want to be appointed government positions. They would want to have a say in public projects. Yet when they are given these town hall meetings, public participation forums, they are nowhere to be seen. So as much as we have issues that lead to marginalization, the youth are also a problem themselves. That is why we need a way to make sure that they are there. When you have an ignorant population, what do you expect?
I may have a contrary view as to the issue of participation, because we realize that the manner in which public participation, especially in our country, has been structured is not one that is responsive. You realize that yes, many youth will want to participate, and many of them have done so. But you realize that participation is something that has to happen before a decision is made. But being invited to participate once a decision has already been made, then therefore it defeats the notion of participation.
It depends on your strength in terms of negotiating, the power of negotiation. If you just come there 2 or 3 times, you're not even aware how much fund has been given for a particular project, because our government has funds for specific projects. If it's a project for health, and you come say, I want a project for a school, education. So maybe the youth are demanding too much. Maybe they do not understand the process. Maybe they do not have information. What I just said, lack of information, is our biggest hindrance factor that leads to youth marginalization. The second thing I had mentioned is also our culture. We have cultures that lays a foundation saying, as a youth, as a lady, or as a young woman, you are not supposed to speak when seniors are there. There is also this village elites, let me call them village elites, people who have captured local governance and represent the youth. Someone is 45 years old and they say, I'm a youth representative. So where are the youth? And because of our cultural practices, you cannot question that. Maybe this elite is the only person who knows how governance is done, has the relevant information, has the relevant skills, and the youth do not have. So how can this youth go ahead and question that particular person when they lack the information, they lack the knowledge, they lack the relevant skill, and most of all, they do not have the power of negotiation or the negotiation skills. So you do not go and demand. You need to mobilize, negotiate, and be able to write a valid, a feasible, not valid, a feasible proposal. You cannot just go there into a public forum, talk without a proposal. So how many youth know how to develop this proposal that is feasible, that is worth being looked at, especially by a policy specialist, maybe our leaders, something that can be worked on. So most of them just is talking, hearsay, but going to the paperwork, they have no skill. They can't do anything. That's why you hear all these complaints. We went to that public forum, we are the youth, we are marginalized, we wanted a water dam to be built here, but it was not built. Then you sit and ask, did you write a proposal? Did you see at the cost benefit analysis? So
could it be also be said that one is a government failure? Because we are looking at a government that is proposing to have TVETs. The intention of the TVETs is to instill skills amongst the youth. So could that be a government failure?
It's not a government failure. It's a policy implementation failure. When you look at those policies, they are properly written. Someone has checked at the cost, the benefit, and the feasibility. But you come up with a policy, yet the population you intend that policy to serve is not even aware. So for example, you talked of TVETs. It's supposed to serve a population all the way from those who left in primary school, high school, and even to college, and their hard skills, which is required here in Kenya. Why are we importing finished goods from China? Yet we have enough manpower here. You want to tell me Kenyans cannot even run a textile industry? We import even kitchen utensils, even tissue papers for that matter. So the policies are okay. The implementation bit is a problem. The dissemination of relevant skills, the dissemination of information, and the changing of our cultural way of thinking is the problem. Today, we have beauty and therapy. Go to some communities and tell a gentleman who is 18 years old, I need you to go do beauty therapy or hairdressing. They will look at you and tell you are crazy. Many in our community do not do hair. So it's about also our cultural background. What do we believe in? What are our beliefs? What are our practices? So I say that those government programs and policies in Kenya, they are really valid. Our problem comes in when the skill required to run that particular or to make that particular policy successful lacks. When we have a community that lacks information, becomes a problem. You tell people to open small enterprise businesses, they have no idea what is required to run a business. So you begin from scratch. Yet we have an academic system, which I believe entrepreneurial skills are imparted to students right from high school. But someone is already fourth year, a graduate, they have no idea how to run a business. So the best way we do is import, import, and import. Yet we have a youth bulge, especially here in Kenya, a great manpower. We have a big market, but it is not tapped, it is not enhanced. So because of this, youth are marginalized, and therefore it causes frustration. They feel like they are left out. They feel like they don't have any kind of identity. They feel like they're useless in their own government. And because of this, it brings in bitterness, brings in anger. That is why most of the time they are used by politicians. They are the people who are used to spark conflicts, to spark violence, because they have nothing else to do. They have to wait for a jacket to come all the way from China for this particular person to wear in the village.
Is it that from what you're saying, it seems like the agitation from amongst the youth is mostly because of the systemic failures we have in our governance system?
Yes, that is one of the things that leads to agitation among the youth. I just talk like corruption, which is part of our system, and we are not new to it. You want a job, you need to pay, or you know someone. So it agitates most of the youth. For example, we want an administrator in the county government. At the end of the day, the person given to run that administrative docket is someone with a background in education. That's a teacher. Yet we have this administrator, highly qualified. They don't even appear in the shortlisting. So we also have systemic failures. So it's like all corners, we have some challenges, which I also believe it is possible to change. And change begins from an individual.
I'll also put this question. What kind of socialization is given to the youth, especially in our country? Because look, judging from history, at the time of independence, mostly people who are used to fight for the country would say, or we categorize them as youth. Come to the repeal of Section 2A in 92. Amongst the people who were very vibrant then were the youth. So is it something that we've inherited from since independence, or is it something that, or maybe the kind of socialization we are receiving right now is different from the kind of socialization that was there before?
I can say socialization is dynamic. You cannot come up with one particular definition and say, this is how youth are socialized in Kenya. We become socialized right from the time we are birthed by our parents. The way you are raised, the school you went, the kind of religious institution you attend, the kind of schools you go, the type of government that is there at that particular time. So when we say socialization among the youth, it's diverse. We do not have one particular way that we say we are socialized. The kind of peer group that you join currently forms part of your socialization.
Maybe to finalize on our discussion, what rationale do youth employ to resist engagement in violence? Because not every youth is vulnerable to accepting to join or maybe to be radicalized or to be violent. Because only a section of the youth, we'd say 2% of the youth participate in any political violence or any kind of any form of violence. So what rationale informs their decision of the decision of the majority not to participate in violence?
First of all, the family unit is key. The family unit is key. This includes your family rules, your family regulations, what you are taught. Then there's religious inclination, what you believe or what you are taught to believe in. Then we also have youth groups that are organized and they are supported by the government. So most of them engage in entrepreneurial activities. Some engage in volunteering. Some engage in sports. Some try to pursue their own academic careers. So it depends on how an individual was brought up. So the family is key in more type of people that we have. Although I must say, you might come up from a good family background, but along the way, you have other people that you meet, teachers, peers, relatives, your close family. They also influence what you are going to do or how the kind of a person that you are going to be in future. So when people have religious inclination, definitely they will not engage in violence. Now, it depends on the religion that you subscribe to. When your family has strict rules and regulations, right from when you are a baby, so these people will try and follow their own family beliefs, family rules, family regulation, and family traditions. Then we have groups that have been organized, assisted by government, non-governmental organization. Most of the time, they will be chasing their economic or business ends. So they will not have this other time to be used by politicians or to be swayed and volunteering. They will not even have time maybe to go to drug abuse and other things. So we have a lot of things that we can engage the youth in to an extent that they will not have time to join bad peer groups.
As you give your final remarks, how do the youth gain social acceptance as adults in the society?
It also depends. If you become a youth, get a job, be important in community, you chip in Arambes, it depends. If you're a youth, you join a group of drug addicts or people who use alcohol, that is where you'll get accepted. If you are a youth, you try to follow your religious beliefs, form part of a religious group, that is where you are accepted. So it highly depends on many other issues.
What will be your general comment on youth and violence?
Well, I would want to say the youth and violence, as much as they are highly associated, if we come with a way of tapping this youthful population into gainful activities, especially from a national government perspective, yes, they are doing much. Like Kazi kwa Vijana, they are currently doing a lot. They even have loans for youth. They're doing a lot. So if we have this youth, maybe given a little help right from their family, where you don't just say you are 18, now you leave my house, yet you are not prepared to become independent as you grew up. So I think when we have this youth being prepared by their families, prepared by their institution, embraced by government, by reinforcing the current policies that are there, it shall come a time when we can say the youth are no longer highly associated with terrorism, violence, and war, not only here in Kenya, even across Africa.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eddah. From reading from what you've been telling us is the youth lack information. We lack information as to what is happening, or maybe the information we need to ensure every decision that is being made by the government, at least we are involved. And you say that we also lack skills.
Maybe I should say inadequate information, inadequate skills, because there is no absolute lack of this kind of skills.
Precisely. Thank you for that.
When we have these skills, when we have this information, with the current technology, I'm sure we can propel our country from this level into a different, better level.
You also say that we've self-marginalized ourselves.
Oh, sure, yes.
We are not ready to offer ourselves to service.
It's not about readiness. It's also about your belief. Most of us You think that we go to school to get white collar jobs. You talk of business and someone wants, I just want to be a banker, I just want to be a nurse. So there you go.
Thank you so much. I think the last point that has been so clear in this discussion is that as youth, we need to organize, we need to bring ourselves together and have an informed course of action. And thank you so much for your time. And also thank you for the input you've given to us. It's been very enlightening and very educative. I hope many youths are going to benefit from this information because we stand to lose so much. In any decision that is being done by the government, we are the largest population. We need to take that action and to ensure that we participate in every aspect of governance. Just like it's been said, we've self-marginalized. We are not organized, but we agonize so much. We agitate so much. So we need to stop agonizing and begin to organize. Thank you very much once again. And on behalf of Poly Youth, we want to appreciate you so much. These are issues that we keep on discussing because they are social issues. They affect us on a daily basis. We discuss different issues. Previously, we've discussed issues to deal with the economy. We've discussed issues to deal with education. This month, we are discussing youth, security, and violent extremism and war. This is in relation to COVID-19, where we have emergence of gender-based violence. We have a number of issues that are coming up, people killing one another, suicide. So it is a wider issue and a wider discussion that still needs to be pushed. And we hope that we are going to be part and we are going to inform every other issue that will be happening in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Maybe I'll welcome my other members to just say a word before we can end the session.
It's been very, very informative. And on behalf of the Youth in Policy, Polyouth, we thank you for your time, Madam Eddah. This is just the beginning of this conversation. We'll have a larger town hall. We had an interaction, one-on-one interaction between young people, us as an organization and an expert, but we hope to have even more interactions on Twitter. So just follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, and we'll have more of these interactions. And then we mark it all up and we sum it all up with a town hall that's coming up in September. That is on the 16th. So look out for that. Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, my take home, it starts with a family unit, you know, and in as much as young people can, you know, be violent and you know, all that, we are also a resource. We can be a resource in, you know, our numbers and everything. So yeah, thank you. I've had a really interesting and fun listening to you and engaging. Thank you so much, Sanya.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our communications director for making this session a success.